Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Praptasya Kalyana Guranavasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravindan Praptasya Kalyana Guranavasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravindan Vande Gurashi Charanaravindan Vande Gurashi Charanaravindan Mahaprabhu ki Tana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Mahaprabhu ki Tana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Vajo Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Tarangavajo Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shingaratanama Niramajanado Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Juktasya Bhaktamsa Neyunjatapi Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vande Gurashi Chaturvidhashi Bhagavat Prasada Satana Truptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidhashi Bhagavat Prasada Satana Truptan Kridvaiva Trupti Bhajata Shadeva Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vande Gurashi Shiradikama Davayora Para Madhurya Lila Gunarupanamna Shiradikama Para Madhurya Lila Pratikshana Swa Danalalupasa Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Nikunjayono Ratikeli Sidai Jajali Bheri Juktir Apekshaniya Nikunjayono Ratikeli Sidai Jajali Bheri Juktir Tatrati Daksha Atibalavasa Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vasya Satcha Dharitena Shamasta Shashri Ruktastatthava Vyataiva Sadave Kintu Prabhorja Priya Eva Tasya Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Kintu Prabhorja Priya Eva Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Yasya Prasada Nagati Kutapi Yayam Stuvam Tasya Yasatrin Sandhyam Pande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Dhyayam Stuvam Tasya Yasatrin Sandhyam Bande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Bande Gurashi Charanara Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Swami Niti Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatadesha Tarine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatadesha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Gaur Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shiva Sari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hariyaraye Nama Krishna Jadavaye Nama Jadavaye Madhavaya Kesavaye Namaha Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattara Guna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasara Guna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Haribo, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Shri Radha, Shri Radha, Nila Madhava Radha, Nila Madhava Radhe. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadrama, Jaya Sudarshan Chakra. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Baladeva Jaya, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Sitaram, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Premanande, Haribo. Jaya Vishupara Paramita Prabhajagacharya, Astuttara Sarasi Shimari Divine Grace. Abhatarvina Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Pratishta Bhiviti Samstapakachar Vaishnav Siramani Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Ji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Gauriya Guru Varga Patita Udhara ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhattara Gunata Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sat Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji ki jai. Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi ki jai. Prem si Koho si Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrindi ki jai. Jai Paramadayal Nityananda Prabhu ki Prema Nama Sankirtane Ka Janaka Prema Purushottama Shri Sachinanda Nishman Gauranga Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaura Hari Mahavrana Avatar ki jai. Golokera Pramadhan Harinam Sankirtan Yaga ki jai. Yoga Dharma Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai. Brihat Midanga Transcendental Book Distribution Seva ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopakunda Radha Kund Samakunda Giriraj Govardhan ki jai. Shri Brajabhum Vrindavan Mathurudam ki jai. The Lordship Shri Radha Nila Madhava ki jai. Shri Maya Purnavadip Eka Chakradam ki jai. परम करुणा शिष्य गौर निताय की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम चित्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु श्रीमती सुभद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय। भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशन कनु सिंह देव भगवान की जय। जय गंगा माय जमुना माय की जय। तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री मथुरा रानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। निताय गौरी प्रमानंदे हरि बोल। All glories to the Son of the Bodies. All glories to the Son of the Bodies. All glories to the Son of the Bodies. All glories to Shri Shri Guru Shri Gauranga Hari.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste
Prahlad Daine. Hiranyakashi Purvasahan. Shilatankana Ito Narsingha Parato Narsingha. Yato yato yami tato Narsingha.
Yato yato yami tato Narsingha.
Bahir Narsingha, Hirday Narsingha. Narsingha Madim Sharanam Prapude. Tav kar kamal vare nakam adbhuta singha. Dalita hiranyakashipu tanu bringa. Keshavadhirta narhari rupa jaya jagadish hare. Jaya jagadish hare. Sab kar vare nakam adbhuta singha. Hiranyakashipu tanu bringa. Keshavadhirta jai jagadish hare. Jaya Narsingha De, Jaya Narsingha De, Jaya Narsingha De, Jaya Narsingha De. Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. जय जय गुरुदेव 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 गुरुदेव।
ये भक्ति पद सर्वविघ्नाश न कनुष्य हरे भगवान की जय। हे भक्त श्रेष्ठ प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। श्री वृंदायै तुलसी देवाय प्रियै केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादे देवी शतवताय वृंदायै तुलसी देवाय प्रियै केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादे देवी शतवताय वृंदायै तुलसी देवाय प्रियै केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादे देवी शतवताय नमः। जय श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदादेवी की जय।
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी।
ये तुम्हारा शरण लो कारावांच पूर्ण हो कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावनवासी
कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावनवासी।
मोरे अभिला विलास कुंज दियो सदा युगल रूप राशि निवेदन धरो साकिरानुगत करो निवेदन करो किरानुगत करो सेवाधिकार दे करो निज दासी बिना कृष्ण दासे कोई न मोर होय बिना कृष्ण दासे कोई न मोर होय श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा न भासी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा भासी यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल
Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradeve Shatavataya Krishna Bhakti Pradeve Vrindaya Tulasi Devai Priyaya Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradeve Shatavataya Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrindadevi O Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to return the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has wishes fulfilled. Bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also grant me a residence in pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower account with the emissaries of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna, please. May I always fame love Shri Radha Govinda Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrindadevi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhastakam Ki Jai. Chito Darpana Marjana Bhavamada Bhagnirvapanam Shreyakari Vachandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Shradanam Sarvatmasnam Parampara Vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Baudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pitanyamita Smarane Nakala Ita Drishitava Kripaya Bhagavan Namati Dudhaivam Idrishamiyajani Nanuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sashnuna Amani Namana Dena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagari Shakamaye Mama Janmani Janmanishwari Bhavatar Bhakti Vainandatanu Jakinkara Haritama Vishame Bhavambudo Kripayata Vapada Pankaya Stitadule Sadrisham Vichinkaya Nayanam Galarashudharaya Vadanam Gadu Gadarudaya Gira Pulakari Chitamba Pukara Tavanama Grahane Bhavisati Jugaitam Nimishena Chakisha Prabhashaitam Sunyaitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Verainami Asli Savapadaratam Pinastuma Adarshanan Marmatam Karotuva Tata Tata Bhavidara Matprana-tastu sa-ivana para Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare Jai Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhastakam Ki Jai Namo Mahavarannaya Krishna Prema Pradayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namini Guru Tushe Nama. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years, and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There's not even hard and fast rule for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself a Lord and stroll in the street, one should be more tolerant on a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer our respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotion service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet some or other I have fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, and will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? Or will my voice choke up? And will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he sure remains so. Even if handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me, he is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. There are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literatures or literatures and pursuits of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretations to the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are often Vedas as fruitive activity, karma kanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names, and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be interchangeable chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees, they can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls.
Timirandasya Yananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Chapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Padati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Chikamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunitam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvatam Sarvatam Krishna Sahitam Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Vrinda Tamsa Bhutali Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gurvani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunivadi Vaskate Satarine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namani Shivasavanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujjvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhakti Da Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastute Namaste Nurmani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Apasadanta Dvantaharine Namo Gora Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitananda Namine Guru Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gauravir Bhava Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Sri Jaganatayate Namaha Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Kripasindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurachase Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Jayatam Suratur Pangur Mama Manda Matergati Matsarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vindaranya Kalpadrumadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simhasanastato Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prestali Bihi Sevyamano Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivatatastita Karsan Venuswaner Gobir Gopinatak Striyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai, Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai, Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha, Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam, Chentamani Prakata Satma Sukalpa Riksha, Laksha Vritesha Surabhira Vipaliyantam, Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Sevyamanam, Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Konandum Aravinda Dalayataksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Visesha Sobam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kala Sadmanamalya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranaikiri Kalavilasam Shamyam Divangalita Niyata Prakasam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vritti Manti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedesa Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastu Koti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayor Ratapi Manaso Munipungamanam Sobhyasti Yat Papadasim Yavichintya Tatve Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chaitun Jagaranda Kotim Yas Chakti Rasti Jagaranda Chayayadanta Andanta Rasta Paramanu Chayanta Rastam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajastataiva Sampapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusa Suktar Yameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavita Bistabirya Eva Nicharupa Tayakalabi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto Govindam Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Deva Hidresu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menatistan Nanavatara Makarod Bhuvani Sukintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pamam Yo Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagananda Kotim Koti Svaseshu Vasudadi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahma Niskalam Anantam Ashesha Bhutam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Maya Hiyasya Jagadanda Satani Sute Jai Gunya Tad Visaya Veda Vitaya Manam Sadva Vulambi Parasadvam Visuddha Sattvam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manasuya Praninam Pratifalam Smaratam Upetya Lilaya Tena Bhuvanani Jayaya Jasram Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nijatamni Tale Chitasya Devi Mahesu Haridama Sute 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 Te Prabhava Nichaya Vitasya Yena Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Chististati Pralaya Sadhana Sakti Reka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichana Rupam Abhyasya Chichesta Tesa Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Deparcha Deva Hita Santanam Abhyapetya Dipaya Deva Vita Hetu Samanu Dharma Yastadra Geva Hicha Vishnu Taya Vibhati Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narna Vajale Bhajatisma Yoga Nidramananta Jagaranda Saroma Kupaha Adhara Saktim Avalambya Param Swamurtim Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasita Kalamata Valambya Jivanti Loma Villaja Jagananda Nataha Vishnu Mahansa Yasya Kalabhisesu Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Basman Yatasma Sakalesu Nijesu Tejaha Swayam Kiyat Prakatayat Apitadvatatra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidanu Karta Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Dvande Pranama Samayesa Ganadi Raja Vignan Vihantam Alamasya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahiga Ganamambu Marudisasya Kalas Tatatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Yamcha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschak Suresa Sabita Sagala Grahanam Raja Teja Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmota Papa Nichaya Shrutayastapam Se Brahmadi Kita Patagava Tehasta Jivaha Yadata Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabhava Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrindra Gopa Matavendra Mahoswa Karma Bandana Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nirdahati Kinchucha Bhakti Bhajam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Biti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gaurava Sevya Bhavahai Sanchintya Tasya Sagrasim Tamapurete Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo Jumabhumish Chintamani Ganama Itoyam Amritam Kataganam Natyam Gamanam Apivam Sipriya Saki Chiranandam Jyoti Param Apitada Swadyam Apicha Sayatra Shiradi Bhishwabati Shirabi Bhyasta Sumahan Nimesar Dakyova Rajati Nahiyatra Prisamaya Bhaje Swita Dvipam Tamaham Iha Golakamiti Amvidantas Te Santakshiti Virachari Katipaya Ishwara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Nadi Radhi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai Shri Guru Vastika Prayers Ki Jai. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it. So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I, for my respectful base unto the lotus feet, as such a spiritual master is an ocean of auspicious qualities, chanting the holy name, dancing, actually singing and playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind, sometimes his hair stands on end, he feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet as such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in temple worship, Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship. But, Lord, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert in assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I offer my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he's the most confidential servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, his divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, text number 33. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Kachit Chivam Devakaboja Putra. Vishnu Prajaya Iva Deva Matu. Yavai Swagarbena Dadara Devam. Trayi Yata Yagya Vitanam Artam. Kaschit, whether. Shivam, everything well. Devaka Boja Putraha, of the daughter of King Devaka Boja. Vishnu Prajaya, of she who gave birth to the personality of Godhead. Eva, like that of. Deva Matu, of the mother of the demigods, Aditi. Ya, one who, by, indeed, Swagarbena, by her own womb, Dadara, conceived, Devam, the Supreme Lord, Trai, the Vedas, Yata, as much as, Yagya Vitanam, of spreading the sacrifice, Artam, purpose. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. As the Vedas are the reservoir of sacrificial purposes, so the daughter of King Devaka Boja conceived the Supreme Personality of Godhead in her womb, as did the mother of the demigods. Is she, Devaki, doing well? Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Vedas are full of transcendental knowledge and spiritual values, and thus Devaki, the mother of Lord Krishna, conceived the Lord in her womb as the personified meaning of the Vedas. There is no difference between the Vedas and the Lord. The Vedas aim at the understanding of the Lord, and the Lord is the Vedas personified. Devaki is compared to the meaningful Vedas, and the Lord to their purpose personified. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So what is the purpose of the Vedas? So that's explained in 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 15th verse, which says that Sarvasya Chaham Hridhi Sanivisto Matak Smriti Jnanam Apahanam Cha Vedaish Cha Sarvir Aham Eva Vedyo Vedantavit Vedavit Eva Chaham. Vedanta Krit Vedavit Eva Chaham. So this means that the purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. Now, Therefore, if Krishna appears, he represents the purpose of the Vedas. Vedaischa sarvir aham eva vedyo, which means, by all the Vedas, I am to be known. Prabhupada often quotes this. This is the purpose of the Vedas, is to know Krishna and to surrender to him and engage in the devotional service of the Lord. And in the purport to this verse, chapter 15, verse 15, Srila Prabhupada writes, the Supreme Lord is situated as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and it is from him that all activities are initiated. The living entity forgets everything of his past life, but he has to act according to the direction of the Supreme Lord, who is witness to all his work. Therefore, he begins his work according to his past deeds. Required knowledge is supplied to him, and remembrance is given to him, and he forgets also about his past life. Thus, the Lord is not only all-pervading, he is also localized in every individual heart. He awards the different fruitive results. He is worshipable not only as the impersonal Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the localized Paramatma, but as the form of the incarnation of the Vedas as well. The Vedas give the right direction to people so that they can properly mold their lives and come back to Godhead, back to home. The Vedas offer knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and Krishna, in his incarnation as Vyasadeva, is the compiler of the Vedanta Sutra. The commentation on the Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam gives real understanding of Vedanta Sutra. The Supreme Lord is so full that for the deliverance of the conditioned soul, he is the supplier and digester of foodstuff, the witness of his, meaning living entity's, activity, and the giver of knowledge in the form of Vedas, and as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, the teacher of the Bhagavad Gita, he is worshipable by the conditioned soul. Thus God is all good. God is all merciful. Anta pravista shasta jananam. The living entity forgets as soon as he quits his present body, but he begins his work again, initiated by the Supreme Lord. Although he forgets, the Lord gives him the intelligence to renew his work where he ended his last life. So not only does a living entity enjoy or suffer in this world according to the dictation from the Supreme Lord situated locally in the heart, but he receives the opportunity to understand the Vedas from him. If one is serious about understanding the Vedic knowledge, then Krishna gives the required intelligence. Why does he present the Vedic knowledge for understanding? Because a living entity individually needs to understand Krishna. Vedic literature confirms this. Yo sho sarver vedaya jiyate. In all the Vedic literature, beginning from the four Vedas, Vedanta Sutra, and the Upanishads and the Puranas, the glories of the Supreme Lord are celebrated. By performance of Vedic rituals, discussion of Vedic philosophy, and worship of the Lord in devotional service, he, meaning Krishna, is attained. Therefore, the purpose of the Vedas is to understand Krishna. And that's what that third line of this 15th chapter, 15th verse says. Vedaischa sarvir aham eva vedyo. The ultimate goal is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedanta Sutra 1.1.4 confirms this in the following words, Tattu samanvayat. One can attain perfection in 3 stages. By understanding Vedic literature, one can understand his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By performing the different processes, one can approach him. In other words, by the different processes of devotional service, one can approach him. And at the end, one can attain the supreme goal, who is no other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this verse, the purpose of the Vedas, the understanding of the Vedas, and the goal of the Vedas are clearly defined. So, purpose of the Vedas, Vedashta Sarvaramham Eva Vedyo, that is to know Krishna, to understand who he is, to know how to serve him, to also be engaged in his service. And then secondly, the understanding of the Vedas. If we are engaged in devotional service and we're sincere about it, Krishna gives us the knowledge by we can approach him. Tesam sattva yuktanam bhajtam pratipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yena mam upayanti te. 10th chapter, verse number 10. Those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they come to me. And lastly, and the goal of the Vedas. Well, the goal of the Vedas is to help one go back to Godhead through devotional service and association of devotees and taking prasadam and going on Sankirtan and assisting in classes and preaching what one has learned to help others. So, these are the purposes and understanding and the goal of the Vedas. Okay. So, therefore, it says, as the Vedas are the reservoir of sacrificial purposes, so the daughter of King Devaki Bhoja conceived the Supreme Personality of Godhead in her womb, as did the mother of the demigods, Aditi. Is she, Devaki, doing well? Well, okay, now, Krishna appears in the womb of Devaki. How did that happen? It did not happen by connection of her husband and her physically. But there is a connection between a husband and his wife, or Vasudeva and Devi. Did tapasya for at least 10,000 years. What for? They wanted to have Krishna as their son. And eventually, Krishna appeared in Vasudeva's mind, and he transmitted that vision of Krishna to his wife, and then she became pregnant. There was no physical contact, but there was what you would call a spiritual contact. Now, some people say, "Oh, that's a bunch of nonsense. I don't believe that. Nobody can do things like that." Well, yeah, no normal person can do it, but look, they underwent severe tapasya together, husband and wife, for 10,000 years, with one thought in their mind that whole time, that they wanted Krishna to be their son. And eventually Krishna satisfied their desire. So that's the power of the mind, if it is under control and if we can focus it on Krishna. These supernatural things can happen. Of course, mundane people don't believe this. They only think that their salvation in life is science. But what has science done? Science has created their best production is weapons of mass destruction. And we see it right now in Ukraine. We saw it in World War II. We saw it in World War I. We're seeing it all the time in the Korean War, in the Vietnam War. They create these weapons of mass destruction. And that's their best product. Look, Bhakta Joe right now has sent close to three billion. I think it's billion. Yeah, $3 billion of weaponry to Ukraine. Imagine what he could have done with $3 billion in the United States. He could have done a lot of good work like that. But no, he sends it in the form of weaponry to Ukraine. And Russia also is spending billions and billions of dollars wasting their weaponry on Ukraine. And in the end, probably it'll be a tie, or maybe one will prevail. And so many men have died, so much destruction has been done. And then they'll rebuild it all and supply their armaments to do it again. You see, so what a crazy way of life this is that's happened. So so we see that number one, the scientists, their best creation is weapons of mass destruction in the form of heavy weaponry, including the atomic bomb, nuclear bomb, hydrogen bomb, and also in the form of biological warfare like COVID-19, COVID this, COVID that, and also in the form of different poisonous subjects, poisonous materials like poison gas and so forth. So, and then the IT people, they have created weapons of mass deception. What does that mean? Well, they're misleading people to think that this whole IT business is going to be like the salvation of the people. But actually, it's destroying people's lives. And the next step of it is called metaverse. And the metaverse will put everyone's already in illusion, but now they're going to be completely in illusion, making their own reality. And, yeah. And then the politicians, they're creating weapons of mass confusion. They have transgender, gender neutrality, also identity politics, critical race theory, the idea that policies, language, and other social institutions and social structures or gender roles should avoid distinguishing roles according to people's sex or gender. So, I mean, this is all crazy stuff. People get confused by all these things. They get confused because now you can't use certain pronouns, and everybody can dictate what pronouns they're allowed to use, and etc. And then Hollywood and Bollywood, they create weapons of mass perversion that degrade society. And the false brahmanas, they create weapons of mass materialism and selfishness. Every time there's a Satyanarayana Puja, the pundit says, say mama. Well, what does mama mean? It means that you're performing this ritual for the benefit of the yajaman, or the person who's paying for it. That's not the purpose of Vedic rituals, to enrich individuals. The whole purpose of Vedic rituals is to glorify Krishna and to give all the offerings to Krishna. Bhuktaram yagitapasam sarvaloka maheswaram suridam sarvabhutanam yadvamam santin richati. If you want to attain real peace, then you have to understand three things. That Krishna is the original bhukta, beneficiary of all sacrifices. So when the Pandit tells you to say mama, he's directing the whole benefit of the sacrifice to the individual. This is simply making people into materialists and not spiritualists. And then there are the Mayavadis. They create weapons of mass cancellation of Vedic culture. They say the whole material world is false. They say Vaikuntha doesn't exist. Goloka doesn't exist. There's only the Brahma Jyoti. They say individuality is false. It's an illusion. There's only one soul. And the highest perfection of spiritual life is to merge into the Brahman effulgence, which they consider as the one soul. This is all nonsense stuff. It's not true at all, right? So they are the original cancel culture people. They're canceling the whole Vedic culture, right? Okay, so here we see a dilemma. All these powerful personalities and people are misleading everyone. And that's why there's so much suffering in the world today. And we can see that suffering. Every day there's so much suffering going on because of cataclysmic events, because of nasty people, because of different types of problems with the body, and therefore people are always harassed in this world today. That's because being ignorant of the laws of material nature, which means actually the laws of God or Dharma, people are committing sinful acts thinking they are right. Like, for example, is taking intoxication right? According to the Vedas, no. So anyone who takes intoxication, they will be engaged in sinful activity. It could be coffee, it could be tea, it could be cigarettes, it could be marijuana, it could be bong, it could be this, it could be that, heroin, cocaine, whatever. They're engaged in sinful activity. Is illicit sex something that is good? No, it's not good. It's considered sinful by the Vedic, by the laws of Dharma. And therefore, people engaging in this type of activity, they are engaged in sinful activity, and they're going to get reactions. Is lying good? Well, the politicians and the lawyers are liars. Politicians also are liars. So, if you lie, is that a good thing? No, it's not. It's sinful. So we see people are every day committing sins, thinking it's okay. And therefore, they put themselves deeper and deeper into miseries of life. All right. So, therefore, even the Varnashram system that's was established by Krishna to help people gradually advance to Krishna consciousness, that's also being misrepresented today by the Hindu caste system, which has nothing to do with the original Varnashrama system. Nothing. And we explained this the other day, so I won't go into that. But the Varnashram is not properly followed in the age of Kali. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came specifically to propagate the Sankirtan movement, or Sankirtan Yagya. And he brought the chanting of Hare Krishna, Mahamantra, from the spiritual world. Golokira, Premadana, Harinama, Sankirtana. And he said, look, don't have anything to do with the false caste system. Don't have anything to do with gender neutrality, with this thing, with all these things I just mentioned. Just chant Hare Krishna, distribute prasadam freely to the people, and regularly continue hearing Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam spoken by genuine devotees. Take only prasadam, associate with devotees, and preach Krishna consciousness. If you do these things, now it doesn't matter you're working, you have a family, or you're a celebrant, or whatever, you're a kid, or you're an old person. Anybody can do these things. And if they do these things, they become purified of all these false conceptions of life. And they become blessed by Krishna. And Krishna will protect the devotee who engages in this type of activity meant to glorify the Lord and help others understand who Krishna is. And anybody can do it. Anyone can do these things. It's just a matter of becoming regulated in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. If you become regulated, then you have time. If you're unregulated, you never have any time. See? So, and one of the qualities of successful people is that they usually regulate their behavior, their daily activities, by usually going to sleep early, waking up early, and like Trump was waking up like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. He couldn't wait to send out his tweets. To do that, he had to get up early. You see? Now, Napoleon, he hardly slept 2 hours a day. He was so excited in conquering countries. You know, he went all the way up into Russia. He conquered most of Europe and went into Russia, but then he was eventually defeated. So we see these people, for material purposes, get excited, and they reduce their sleeping and eating and all these things because of the excitement they have, tweeting or conquering or whatever. See? So if they can do that for those bad reasons, why can't we do it for a good reason? And we do have the example of the Goswamis. They reduce their eating, their sleeping, and they produced tremendous literature, and they excavated the places of Lord Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan that had been lost over time, and they gave the greatest, what you would call, benefits to humanity in the form of the literatures that they wrote. And today we're simply learning from all the work that they did. Okay, so the process of Krishna consciousness is explained in Bhagavad Gita, and there's several. Well, yesterday we read a very important verse that sort of encapsulates the whole process of Bhakti Yoga, and I'm going to go over it again and then show other supporting verses of that one. So that was the 8th chapter, and verse number. One second, I'll find it. Which one? Ashiham Srulabha Partha Nitya Yuktasya Yogina. 8:14. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Prita, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Well, if you want to remember Krishna, get engaged in devotional service. Then you'll always be remembering him. And stay in the association of good devotees who actually follow the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness. And try to go on Sankirtan and learn how to preach to people, not inundate them with too much information, but to preach to them in a respectful way, not condescending, and educate them. Now, culture is education. Dogma is dictation. So we do not want to dictate. We want to educate. So culture is something, like for example, if you say, Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if you don't believe it, you're a demon. That is dictation. But if you say, Lord Chaitanya was a vanguard of inclusiveness, he did not discriminate on the basis of caste, gender, etc. He helped all people, regardless of what their religion was, or whether they were religious or not religious, atheistic, etc. He helped all people make spiritual advancement. It's just like when the tide goes up, all the boats go up, right? So in that way, he was inclusive, and he basically taught people nonviolent. Well, okay. If we look at Gandhi, if we look at Martin Luther King, both of them were assassinated, although they were saying they were trying to change society by nonviolent means, right? So it's very ironic. They're teaching nonviolence, and they both get assassinated, right? Lord Chaitanya was preaching nonviolence also, but it wasn't used as a political tool. It was used to help people advance spiritually. Now, what's the difference? They're both saying nonviolence, right? The difference is if you use nonviolence as a political tool, which is what basically Gandhi did and Martin Luther King. At first, Martin Luther King did not, right from the beginning he was using it as a political tool. It didn't look so bad when he was trying to help black people have equal rights as white people. But when he decided also to help white people, poor white people, and poor blacks, and then all people in the United States to go against the Vietnam War, at that point he was assassinated. See? Because it was not only to help black people have equal rights, or poor white people also to improve their economic situation. It became a challenge to the government who was waging a war at that time. So we see, but Lord Chaitanya did not do that. He did not use nonviolence as a political tool. He simply avoided any what you would call, let's say, direct attempt to change the government. At that time, it was the Muslim government, right? The Muslims had almost control of all of India at that time. Not quite all of it, but most of it. And especially the areas that Lord Chaitanya was preaching was completely controlled by the Muslims, right? That he did not challenge them. He simply did things to help people, and all people. He was preaching to Muslims, he was preaching to Jains, he was preaching to Hindus, he was preaching to everybody that was there to rise up to a higher level of a culture. Instead of the culture of selfishness, come up to the culture of selflessness, and selflessly serve the Lord. Okay, so there's a major difference here, and if we can understand that difference, then we will be able to spread Krishna consciousness massively throughout the world. People are looking for something like this that unites people, not divides people. Politics unite people. Politics, the purpose of politics is identify a friend and an enemy, right? Just like Republicans, evil. Democrats, good. Then the Republicans say, Democrats, evil. Republicans, good. So that's what politics are. Congress is evil. BJP is good. Or BJP is evil, Congress is good. So this is going on all over the world. And therefore people get divided by politics. But they can get united by Krishna consciousness. That's the difference. Okay, so Krishna says, for one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Prita, because of their constant engagement in devotional service. So this one verse is the solution to all problems in life. This one verse. Now, there are other verses like this in the Bhagavad Gita. It's not just in the 8th chapter. If we go to the 9th chapter, Krishna says, second. He says, Yat karosi yadasnasi yat juhosi dadasi yat tapasyasi konteya tat kurusva madarpanam. That last phrase, tat kurusva madarpanam, this is used by the Sri Vaishnavas all the time. They say, Krishna madarpanam astu. Is that right? It means offer all your service to Krishna. Even though they espouse Narayana, Narayana is Krishna also, but they actually quote like this at the end of every puja that they perform, or every yajna they perform. They will say, Krishna madarpanam astu. So that's what this verse says. 9th chapter, 27th verse. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. And Prabhupada writes, thus, it is the duty of everyone to mold his or her life in such a way that he will not forget Krishna in any circumstance. Everyone has to work for maintenance of his body and soul together. And Krishna recommends herein that one should work for him, meaning for Krishna. Everyone has to eat something to live. Therefore, he should accept remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna. Any civilized man has to perform some religious ritualistic ceremonies. Therefore, Krishna recommends, do it for me. And this is called archana. Everyone has a tendency to give something in charity. Krishna says, give it to me. And this means that all surplus money, notice he uses the word surplus, right? Money accumulated should be utilized in furthering the Krishna consciousness movement. Nowadays, people are very much inclined to the meditational process, which is not practical in this age. But if anyone practices meditating on Krishna 24 hours a day by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra round his beads, he is surely the greatest meditator and the greatest yogi, as substantiated by the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Well, what does the 6th chapter substantiate? The last verse, it says, Yoginam apisarvesam madgatanantaratpana Shraddhavam bhajate yomam samyuktatomo mata. And of all yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, meaning Krishna, thinks of me, meaning Krishna, within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, meaning Krishna, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So if someone tells you, well, yoga means you do this sitting posture, you do these breathing exercises, and your health will be improved and your stamina gets better. But this is not religious. It has nothing to do with religion. They are lying. They don't know what they're talking about. This so-called whitewashed or religionless yoga is not yoga. It's boga. They're engaged in sense gratification. They're just interested in the body, right? The whole purpose of yoga is to connect with Krishna, and therefore this verse in the 9th chapter explains exactly how to do that. And then the next verse in the 9th chapter, after the 9:27, it says, Subha subha phaler evam moksha sikarma bandhanai sanyasya yoga yukta atma vimukto mam upaisyasi. In this way, by offering everything to Krishna, you will be freed from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. With your mind fixed on me, meaning Krishna, in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. Well, when we say offer everything, remember it said here that all surplus monies or all surplus things, like you have surplus time, you have surplus money, you have surplus abilities like thinking and working, all that should be offered to Krishna. The basic maintenance of the body and soul together should also be done by working honestly and earning money honestly, not by cheating, lying, or whatever. But we always have a surplus, if we're regulated, of time, of money, of work, of thought, etc. So that surplus should be used in serving Krishna. And even the rest of the time where we're trying to maintain the body and soul together, we can also think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna and keeping Krishna as the goal of our activity. If one is going to buy food to sustain the body, the goal should be to use the energy obtained by eating to serve Krishna. So if we fix something, it's just like a person who's climbing a mountain. The way to climb a mountain successfully is to always keep your eyes on the summit of the mountain. Don't look down. You get all confused. You might fall down. Just keep going up, right, till you get to the summit. So that is the culture of successful people. They make a goal. They organize intelligently to reach that goal, and they focus on it. And once they reach that goal, then they can think of other things, but not until they reach the goal that they've fixed for themselves. So, but people who are stop and go all the time, they want to. One day they want to be a baseball player, and then after some time they say, "Well, I don't want to be a baseball player. I want to be a stockbroker." And then they say, "Well, I don't want to be a stockbroker. Now I want to be president of the United States." You know? So a person who keeps changing their mind about what their goal is, they never reach any goal, right? But you make a goal, and you try. So if the goal is, I want to connect to Krishna 24 hours a day, and you work in that direction according to the Acharya's suggestions of how to do that, you'll be successful in everything else you do, because that's the highest goal in itself. Knowing Krishna is the highest goal of life. Okay, so we'll stop right there. Are there any questions? What time is it now? Yeah. Yes. Good, you took some notes.
Guru Maharaj, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
My question on the 6th chapter 47 verse that we are discussing. So
47th verse, right?
yeah, 47 verse.
Yes, what is your question?
The word is Madgatena, always thinking of me. So what is the situation of the other chapter describes to Arjuna how you can see me all the time in different forms, like the Mount Himalaya, or so how do we?
Well, starting in the 7th chapter, verses 8. Vasaham apsakonteya pravasmi sasisuraya pranava sarvavede susabde ke purasham visu. Krishna teaches Arjuna how to see him in the material world. You know these verses?
Yes, Maharaj. But when we are given a form of Krishna, what is the necessity of seeing Krishna in different many things?
Because not everybody wants to see Krishna in his original form because of their enviousness. So Krishna gives them the chance to see him in material nature also. Right? It's just like there is a Toyota car, right? Then all of a sudden there's the regular Toyota car, and then there's the Lexus. That's also Toyota, right? And then there's also, what's the other one? Starts with an A. Acura. That's also Toyota, right? Oh, it's a Honda? Okay. Okay. Well, anyway, they have these different models, but it's all Toyota, or it's all Honda. It's all, just like General Motors. They had, the Buick, and they had the Cadillac, and they have this one and that one, right? But they're all GM. You understand? So, the taste of water, that's Krishna. The light of the sun and moon, that's Krishna. The syllable Om in Vedic mantras is Krishna. Sound in ether is Krishna. Ability in man is Krishna. The original fragrance of the earth is Krishna. The heat in fire is Krishna. I am the life of all that lives, that's Krishna. I am the penances of all ascetics, that's Krishna. I am the, as it says, the original seed of all existences, that's Krishna. The intelligence of the intelligent, that's Krishna. The prowess of all powerful men, that's Krishna. The strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire, that's Krishna. So he's teaching you how to see him in nature, just like Elon Musk, You go to Twitter now, that's Elon Musk, you see. And you go to Whole Foods, that's Jeff Bezos, right? So you can see Krishna in material nature. He's teaching you in the 7th chapter and other chapters, 11th chapter also, how to see him in nature. And this is especially for people who are envious of Krishna. They don't want to see Krishna in his original form. Therefore, Krishna is present everywhere as part of Mahatma, right? And also in these different qualities that are manifested in the material world. All right? So you said, what does this have to do with the Himalayas? Well, Himalayas also Krishna. It's explained in the 10th chapter. In the sense, it's the energy of the Lord, right? Just like you have a heater, it's electricity is making the heater hot. You have a refrigerator, it's electricity. The same electricity makes the heater hot, is making the refrigerator cold. You see? So, therefore, Krishna is explaining how to see him in material nature. People say, well, I don't see God, so how can I believe in him? Well, wait a minute. You're seeing the sun, the light of the sun. You're seeing the light of the moon. You're seeing the fragrance of the flower. You're seeing the taste of water that quenches your thirst. These are all energies of Krishna. Just like there's Acura, there's Lexus, there's Toyota's, I don't know, what's the other name. It's all coming from Toyota. Right.
Maharaj, if we worship Himalayas without connection to Krishna, is it worthless?
If I worship your nose by cutting it off, does that have anything to do with you after I cut it off? No. So that worship would be zero.
Is it the same situation with the other demigods?
Yeah.
If you worship other demigods without connection to Krishna?
Well, it's worship in the wrong way. So that's explained in 9th chapter also, where it says, those who are devotees of other gods, meaning the demigods, and who worship them with faith, actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. Okay? And then the next verse says, that's 9:23, and then 9:24 says, I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. So the worshippers of demigods will eventually fall down because all the benedictions the demigods give are material benedictions. They're not eternal. And no demigod can give you eternal life. They can elevate you to higher planets, maybe, where you have longer duration of life, but you're still subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. Okay? Everything's in the Bhagavad Gita. everything. Answer to all questions. It's in this one book. You have any other questions?
I'm good. I'm good, Maharaj.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question is an extension of his.
Yes.
There are some people who say, okay, everything is Krishna. They'll say, oh, my work is also Krishna. Okay, if my work is creating defense weapons, that is also Krishna. If my work is creating computers, that is also Krishna. How should I understand that?
Well, you have to know the creating weapons can be used in Krishna's service. And IT can be used in Krishna's service. It depends on the motive. Now, you say, well, I killed my husband because he was not a nice guy. Well, that motive would get you in jail, right? But you say, I took care of my husband when he was sick because I care for him. Well, there's a difference between killing your husband and helping him heal from sickness, right? What is your motive? The motive is what counts. If your motive is to please Krishna by developing weaponry or this thing or that thing, then it's okay. But if motive is to destroy people, to dominate nature, like science, all science is junk. They're all trying. The whole point of science today is to dominate nature, and it's impossible to do that. It doesn't belong to them to dominate. And therefore, they're not succeeding. And their best productions is what destroys, not what creates or maintains. Right? So all depends on the motive. If you start out to dominate nature, you're going to fail. Because Krishna says, Devi esa gunamayi, mama maya durataya. This material nature belongs to me, to Krishna. You cannot control nature. You can try, but you will fail. So this is what's happening. People are trying to do things that are impossible to do. Why? Because they want to be God. Just like, have you heard about the God particle? You've heard about it, right? There's this big cyclotron. They spent billions of dollars building it on the French-Swiss border. And it's to split atoms, make the atoms go at this tremendous speed and then try and split them. And the whole point is they want to see if they can change energy into matter and then matter back to energy. So this, and if they can change energy into matter, they call that the God particle, because they're doing what God did. And it's all a hoax. The billions of dollars they spent, all the scientists working on it, the whole gigantic hoax. And they keep saying, well, we came really close, or we did it for 1/30,000th of a second. You know, all nonsense stuff. They are doing things. Now, also, in southern France, they're producing some type of a reactor to be able to get free energy by atomic fusion. So there's two things. There's atomic explosion and there's atomic fusion. So now they figured out they're making a speculation that the energy of the sun is due to fusion technology. And therefore they're trying to make a reactor that can make fusion energy to have free energy forever, right? That's another impossible thing. They're spending billions of dollars. They have 35 countries donating to it, to do it. It's another impossible thing. See? So the cyclotron to change energy into matter is nonsense. The reactor to imitate the sun and make fusion energy is another nonsense. And they keep, and what's the whole purpose? To junk God and they become God. To dominate nature. See, they cannot dominate nature because it belongs to Krishna. It doesn't belong to them. You get the idea, right? Everything depends on the motive.
Motive, yeah. But not all science starts that way, right, Maharaj? Like, let's say you're trying to invent a computer.
What?
Let's say you're using science to invent something like a computer so that you increase the productivity so people
No, but let's
can work
look
faster.
at who did that.
Hmm.
You know, what's his name? Sort of the father of the computer.
I think Charles Babbage. No.
What's his name? Father of the. Okay, I'll think of it later on. It's escaping me right now. Anyway, he said, eventually, the computer will surpass mankind's abilities, and if there is a soul, it will produce the soul also. He said all kinds of crazy things. Back in 1950, he was one of the Turin. His name is Turin.
Turin, yeah.
Alan Turin. Was that the person you were saying? You were mispronouncing his name, though. You said Turi. Okay, I heard Turi through your mask there. So Turin, he was a nonsense guy. He's an atheist. And he thinks that, he's predicting in the future it'll junk God. God will end up in the junkyard and the computers will take over. You see, these are all crazy people. And therefore, the example of the computer right there, I'm telling you who the father of the computer is, and what was his motive? His motive was to junk God. You see? So everything depends on the motive. So what is our motive? If our motive is Krishna Madarpanam Mastu, okay, that is a bona fide thing. You want to offer your energy, your thoughts, your love, your everything to Krishna, then you're going to succeed. Because Krishna is going to help you. But if your motive is to junk Krishna, you're definitely going to fail, no matter how smart you are. And by the way, all these guys are saying, oh, pretty soon we'll solve the riddle of death. They're all dying. They've been trying to do this since the beginning of time. The big demons tried to do this, Ravana and all of them. They were all trying to become God, to become immortal. Hiranyakashipu wanted immortality. Ravana wanted immortality, all of them. See, so if they failed, and they're much more highly advanced than the modern so-called moguls, Larry Page and Larry Ellison, all the Larrys and these guys and those guys, they're all going to die way before they become immortal. See? Okay.
Thank you. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Valuable. Any other questions?
Comment Maharaj related to this topic is, I was reading the In Search of the Ultimate Goal of Life by Prabhupada.
What were you reading?
In Search
of the ultimate goal of life.
Yeah. So in that, somewhere it is mentioned that
How did you hear about that book?
the link was shared to us in the WhatsApp group.
Yeah. Yeah, I spoke about it. I've been reading from it every day a little bit. Yeah, go ahead. What's your question?
In that, the nature itself sometimes finds a way to create, like for example, the atomic bomb is for mass destruction. It is to bring balance to the population.
Oh, no, that's nonsense right there. This whole, okay, look up Malthus. Mauthus. He was British sociologist, I think. Malthus, you see him? Mathus. Malthus. You find him?
Oh yeah, Malthusian theory. Yeah.
What's it say? Come to the microphone and read it.
The Malthusian theory of
Go closer to the microphone. Take it out and just hold it.
the Malthusian theory of population is the theory of exponential population and arithmetic.
Okay, you know what exponential means? It means that 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, right? It's increasing exponentially. That means the population is increasing. It's out of control, according to Malthus. Okay?
One second, sorry. Food supply growth. The theory was proposed by Thomas.
Closer to your mouth. Hold
Sorry.
it closer.
The theory was proposed by Thomas Robert Malthus. He believed that a balance between population growth and food supply can be established through preventive and positive checks.
Preventive and positive what?
Checks.
He's talking about abortion right now. You have to have the buzzword. You have to know what the buzzwords means. He's talking about abortion and also elimination of what is considered lower order human beings. So, you know, Nazis putting people in gas chambers, that is one tributary of Malthus's theory.
Is that a positive check?
What? Is that a positive check?
Is that what he counts as a positive check?
Well, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of people believe that there's too much population. We won't be able to feed everyone. Therefore, we have to kill some people. So, therefore, they're making COVID-19, and they're planning on COVID-24 and COVID-32 and COVID-64. They're all coming down the pike. She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes. They are making these biological warfare bombs and things like that because they think that there's too much population. So that's what you said, right?
Yes.
The atomic bomb is to eliminate the overpopulation.
In that book it says atomic and hydrogen bombs is actually the plan of Mother Nature to punish the foolish miscreants.
Okay, so you see how, first of all, there's a bigger statement. The bigger statement is Krishna organizes wars so that the demons kill each other. That's Prabhupada says that in several places in the Bhagavatam. So we see that what's happening in Ukraine, what happened between Germany and Russia, and the United States and Germany, right? These type of wars are organized by Krishna so that the demons eliminate each other. In the meantime, they also kill a lot of other people. But there's a lot of karmic, let's say, background that you have to understand to rise above the idea, oh, this is unfair. No, it's not unfair. It's all planned, right? But Malthus, his thing is you have to do it proactively and the human beings decide who's going to die. That's wrong. So that's what Hitler did. And by the way, Hitler borrowed these ideas of population control from Margaret Sanger, who is American, and she's the founder of Planned Parenthood. And her theories of culling the lower class people in society through abortion or other means inspired the Nazis. They learned it from her. And she's an American, and she was killing black people because she believed in this type of culling. Culling means you get out what's considered less important. I'm going to speak about Margaret Sanger in the next couple lectures because she is a very evil person. But she's glorified by all the feminists. You know, and she's the founder of Planned Parenthood. And she also convinced the prime ministers of India, especially Gandhi, to have abortion on a massive scale in India. You don't know about her. And she influenced the Nazis also. Okay, you want to read some more there? Or?
Yes, Maharaj.
Go ahead.
So actually it talks about, as you said,
Hold the microphone closer.
sorry, checks on population, positive checks, preventive checks.
This is not a check where you get money, right? This is where you kill people. He's enumerating all the different ways of checking the population, right?
Exactly, Maharaj. So the checks on population, when the increasing population rate is greater than the food supply, disequilibrium exists. As a result, people
This
will
is
not.
nonsense. The Prabhupada has said clearly, the earth can produce enough food to feed 10 times the population right now, at least 10 times the population. So it's a false premise that there's not enough food to feed the people. Go ahead.
People will not get enough food even for survival. People will die due to lack of food supply.
So in other words, let's kill them before they die.
Exactly.
This is crazy stuff, it's all crazy stuff. And they teach this in schools. This is the Malthus theory of overpopulation. Go ahead.
Adversities such as epidemics, war, starvation, animals, and other natural calamities will crop up, which are named as the positive checks by Malthus. On the contrary, there are man-made checks known as preventive checks. So he's talking about the positive checks, something by the nature, and preventive checks are something which the man will do in order to
Well, that's
check
what
the
Hitler
population.
did. It was a man-made check of population. He was killing the Jews and the Gypsies and the communists. So he was deciding on who's not necessary.
Exactly. So positive checks, nature has its own ways of keeping a check on the increasing population. It brings the population level to the level of the available food supply. The positive check include famine, earthquakes.
See, there's a difference right there. Krishna organizes wars so that the demons kill each other, right? It has nothing to do with the food supply.
Yes.
So that's a whole false premise.
Flood, epidemics, wars, etc. Nature plays up when the population growth
You notice it
goes
says
out of
nature, it
hand.
doesn't say Krishna.
Yes. And then he talks about the preventive checks. The preventive measures such as
By
late
the way,
marriage.
how can nature organize anything? Nature, does he attribute nature to being a person? No. So this impersonal thing is organizing wars and doing this on purpose. It's nonsense.
The preventive measures such as the late marriage, self-control, simple living helps to balance the population growth and food supply.
That's another nonsense.
These
Late marriage help reduce the number
Population.
of people in the world.
Yeah. These measures not only check the population growth, but can also prevent the catastrophic effects of the positive checks.
Well, the Mayan culture found a way to reduce population. They used to grab people in the street and kill them. So, that's what they're doing now in Ukraine anyway, is grabbing people in the street and killing them. So, it's all nonsense.
So now there are some points about criticism of Malthusism theory of population.
Okay, that's all right. That's enough. You get the idea. Did any of you know about Malthus? Okay. Come to class and learn, right? So you see, all these speculators have ruined people's minds with all these false theories based on false premises.
So actually, I just found the opposite of that. There is a guy, Bailey.
Who?
Bailey, B-A-I-L-E-Y, Bailey. He wrote that this is totally the Malthusian theory is totally wrong in the sense that he said that they cannot let go the simple but clearly wrong idea that human beings are no different than a herd of deer when it comes to reproduction. Humans are thinking animals. We find solutions. Think Norman Borlaug and the Green Revolution. the result is the opposite of what Matthew has predicted. The wealthiest nations with the greatest food security have the lowest fertility rates. So that's what he's saying, that actually it is opposite. Whereas the most food insecure countries have the highest fertility rates. So there's a population, he's kind of defeating the theory what Matthew.
Yeah, but his thing is also speculation. So they do a little bit of research, and then they make a theory to oppose the other theory, right? But that doesn't mean their theory is true. Okay, we'll stop right there. We heard enough theories today. Hare Krishna. Who is going to sing? I have to go. We have to take the food truck to Tacoma. Be there 9 o'clock. Oh.
What do you want?
Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma. Bandho muhi savadana mate. Jahara prasade vai e bhava toriya jai. Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoy te. Guru mukha padma vakya chitete koriya kya. Arena koriyo mane asha. Shri Guru Charane rati aise uttama gati. जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा चक्षुर्दान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो प्रेम भक्ति जाहा होइते अविद्या विनाश जाइते वेदे गाय जाहर चरितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदमा जनरा बंधु लोकेनाथ लोकेर जीवाना हा हा प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पद जया एबे जास गोशिक त्रिभुवाना प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्यता देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम रामा हरे 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol.
The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can lift and pure devotional service. By his grace, we can attain the pure devotional service. And bow to his lotus with great awe and reverence. Attachment to his lotus feet is a perfection that fulfills. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto me. Give me the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.